Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, appreciate you guys being here. The High Performance Call, noon Eastern time, Monday through Friday. All sorts of different topics that we go over on these calls. The YouTube channel is almost, the first few videos should get uploaded today. That's my hope. I've got 4 or 5 that they're finalizing editing for. That should go up today. Others are going to be following all week long. So tomorrow I'll get you guys that link where some of the prime ones will be up there. Let me pull this up. There we go. So that's exciting. Hopefully you guys took the time this weekend, spent some time with family, did a little bit of studying. These calls, we go over all sorts of different topics. Now, some of you guys have been around for a little bit, and I appreciate that. Some of you guys are brand new, and I say welcome to everybody. What I'd like to ask is permission for a little bit of coaching today. So I spent some time going over LinkedIn and content and all sorts of different stuff. I'd like to coach a little bit today. And for those of you who've been around a little bit, typically that coaching means there's been, whether it's conversations in my own life, me looking at my business, conversations with others, or a combination of all of that. There's a couple of topics that have come up that I'd like to pick up, step up on the soapbox and hammer away at for a little bit. Is everybody okay with that? Yep. So hopefully listen to it as a group. If you feel like it is, pricking at your heart, if you are taking it personal, please don't point a finger at me. Try and look at yourself and figure out why it is that this is hitting home a little bit. This is absolutely conversations I've had with myself and others throughout these last 7 days. And so I want to talk a little bit. It is going to be an opinion, especially some people, whether they're here or they're watching afterwards. Some people aren't going to be real happy hearing about it, simply because we're going to talk about the reality of success and what it takes and the ups and downs that go with it and the work involved, whether you're doing it or somebody else is. There's a lot of different ways to get there. Hopefully when you guys watch these, when you listen, I'm here to kind of hammer the point home that yes, personal responsibility ultimately lies on your shoulders, but you're also severely underestimating what you're capable of, right? You overestimate the problems that are in front of you and you severely underestimate what is possible if you focus in the proper manners and give yourself the patience and understanding to work through those obstacles, right? That's ideally what I want to look at today, guys. So good morning, buckle up, strap in, keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times. And we'll see you on the other side. So some of you guys have seen this picture before. I've talked to you a little bit about it. This is, when I look at it, I think of the horizon. We've talked about this before. A lot of us set our goals like we think about the horizon. Okay, so for those of you guys that are brand new to this concept that I've talked about, when I talk about the horizon, everybody knows what that is, right? I'm looking out. I see off into the distance. This is a picture that I imagine when I was driving across Texas on my way to Florida. This is kind of what it felt like. It just kept going on and on forever. So the horizon is when you look off into the distance and you see where the sky meets the earth, right? That's where those two things converge. The crazy thing is, though, is that the horizon, you could travel forever. You're never going to actually reach it because the horizon is simply a mental construct. It's something that we've created to help us look off in the distance and try and get an idea of what it is we're looking at. It can be both intimidating, inspiring, motivating, frustrating, overwhelming, all of these different things, this great expanse. We're starting the business, and whether it's something that we get frustrated with short-term, long-term, it's something that we've got to comprehend. There are ways to deal with the horizon. There are ways to deal with our goals to help us manage it. One of the things that we don't want to do, though, is be reasonable. I think one of the largest issues that so many of us have is that we strive to simply be reasonable. You've got goals, you've got dreams, but when you're looking at it, that's not what I want. Big. Let me pull this up a little bit bigger. You've got to be willing to push yourself a bit more. So here's what the reality is, guys, with your goals. This is a quote from Grant Cardone. I'm pulling some training from him. I'm going to pull some training from Dan Sullivan, some other guys that I've talked about. As long as you are alive, you will either live to accomplish your own goals and dreams or be used as a resource to accomplish someone else's. Now, many of you guys are here because you finally got to that point where you're sick and tired of providing for someone else's dreams. You decide to finally do it on your own. There's that joke where employees gather around, they look out the window one day at work and they see the owner of the company drive up in a brand new Lamborghini, this amazing sports car, the newest model. They go, that is amazing. Everyone goes outside to take a look. The owner's kind of showing it off. They're like, man, that is great. I love that. It's so beautiful. A lot of them are kind of just looking at it, just wishing they had something like it. And the owner looks at them and he pulls them aside and he says, listen, I want to tell you guys, I know that car is pretty fantastic, but if you are willing to work hard and push more and do more this year than you did last year, then it'll allow me to buy the next year's model too. Sometimes you guys are living your life like that. You're pushing yourselves harder and harder and harder, and the owner or the boss of wherever you're working is saying, hey, this is great. My bonus is going up next year. And you get that 50-cent an hour raise. A lot of you guys are killing yourselves for a company and employment or this security blanket. You're killing yourselves for something that would replace you in a matter of days if something were to happen. And they wouldn't even think twice. They'd say, man, that sucks, but we'll find somebody. Your goals have to be important to you. Now, I've talked about this thing that we call success. And as we look on the internet, there is this idea about there's the laptop lifestyle, there's financial freedom, there's the jets, there's the cars, there's living on the beach, there's all of these different things. And some of us, I've heard over the last little bit, I've had a lot of people tell me what they don't want to achieve. I've had a lot of people, when I say, what are your goals? They say, well, let me tell you what I don't want. I don't need to be rich. I'm not looking to be a millionaire. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. And I don't need this high, crazy level of success. This is all I'm looking for. And I kind of look at them and I go, why are you living your life when someone asks you what you want to achieve? Why is your first answer what you don't want? And a lot of you guys are doing that. Well, what I don't need is, look, you can argue with me on this if you want, but ultimately you define success, okay? When I'm talking about success, it's not just money in the bank, okay? It's not a big house. You're going to define success however you want. And if part of that success means your family has everything that you need, good. But if my family is going to have everything that they need, then I need to be financially stable enough to provide it. If I'm going to help others, if I want to work in a charitable manner, if there's villages around the world or there's individuals that I want to help one-on-one, I've got to be financially stable enough to make that happen. I can't feed someone else if my cupboard is empty. Guys, ultimately, yes, success is important, but success is your duty. It is not anybody else's. It is not my parents' responsibility to create that pathway for me. It is not my job's responsibility to pay my bills. The other side of that is there's no shortage of success. If Richard or Dave or Ray or Loretta and Mickey, if you guys achieve success, it doesn't mean that there's less for Paul and Simon. There's plenty out there for all of us. There's no shortage of capital in the world either. If 2020 didn't teach you anything, let me give you a hint. When capital is short in this world, we got a couple of financial advisors. If capital is short in this world, what do? What do the governments do? They print more. They don't even print more anymore. They just put a couple of keystrokes in. They say, hey, there's more available. Guys, there's more than enough capital out there. You've just got to decide that you're going to have it. Next, no one is capable of hindering your path to success unless you allow it. That was a hard truth that I had to learn over the years. A lot of blame was thrown around. You guys may be walking through life and throwing blame back on a dad or a mom or a school teacher. Allow those to be triggers. That's fine. Allow it to be something that pushes you. Great. But the only way that anyone else in this world is going to hinder your pathway to success is if you allow it consciously. And from this moment on, especially, because some of you guys already know this, but some of you guys are hearing this and hopefully it sinks in. But from this moment on, the only way you're ever going to hinder that success is you consciously say, hey, I'm going to let you screw me up. I'm going to let you get in the way of my path. Now, if you don't want to say that to anybody, that's in your power too. You're fully capable of saying, I understand your opinion. I understand what's going on. But I'm the one in control of my pathway to success. Here's another truth that some of us don't want to hear. You should consider it unethical and immoral to not do everything that you can in your life to live up to your potential. Quit living under what you're capable of. Now, here's part of the equation for success to get yourself moving down that road towards the horizon. Smart choices plus consistency plus time will make a radical difference in your life. Odds are it's a lack of the smart choices, or you're not consistent enough, or you're not giving it enough time to be successful to reach that, right? To get that radical difference. Now, here's something that we don't throw in there. Intellectual engagement. This is why I talk about clarity with your goals. I did the training a little while ago about smart goals, dumb goals. Hopefully you guys have seen it. The recording's there on that Google Drive if you've got it. But intellectual engagement, emotional commitment, being clear about what you want to achieve allows me to focus in and say, this is what I'm going after. Now I can create a radical difference. Here's a thought that I want everybody to write down. Hopefully everybody's taking some notes. Here's something I want you guys to write down. It is easier to 10x your results than it is to simply double them. It is easier to 10x your results than it is to simply double them. One more time, and then I want your guys' thoughts. Now, some of you guys have already heard this, and so feel free to chime in. But guys, it is easier to 10x your results than it is to simply double them. And I know some of you guys are looking at me like I'm a whack job right now. And we've got someone that's heading towards the hospital. They tested positive for COVID. So prayers are with you. Any of you guys, if you've got some illness or family that are dealing with things, then always our prayers are with you guys. So who wants to comment on that? It is easier to 10x your results than it is to simply double them. Who would like to comment, agree, challenge, whatever you think? Anybody? Yes, no? Or
I absolutely agree.
Good. Why, Denise?
Because the same effort that it takes to double something, that same sort of methodology is what you'll use to 10x.
It's just simply a different approach, right? Let me add, and here's one of the biggest differences. So hopefully you guys read Cash Flow Quadrant, right? Part of these principles and success principles, you know, some of you guys, I'll talk about cash flow. I'll talk about this, Dan Sullivan, Grant Cardone, this guy, that guy. It's because success is success. How you want to approach it, how you want to think about it. There's all sorts of different methodologies, but all of them combined are part of what you need. How many of you guys work full time? Or if I say 40 hours, you kind of shake your head and you go, that's part time. How many of you guys work or consistently put effort into what you're doing? Now, the question is, could you double the amount of hours that you put into your job right now? Could you double it? Nope. I don't think there's anybody that says yes. Let's imagine you could. Let's imagine your job. If you were to double the amount of hours right now, would you get paid double? Would any corporation pay you double what you're making right now? No, probably not.
Only if you're in my company, then you can double yourself and duplicate yourself to get paid double.
But duplicating yourself is different than doubling the amount of hours that you're working, right?
That's right. You cannot.
Paul's skipping ahead. He's sitting at the front. Give that. He sent me an apple for the teacher earlier. So But yes, yeah. So maybe you get a handful more holidays off and a gold watch in 6 years. Absolutely. Here's the thing. Now, we already know you can't work double. Can you work 10 times as much? No. Impossible, right? None of you guys are going to be able to do that. So why do I say it's easier? Because there are things that have to change in your approach. There are things that have to change in your actions in order for you to get to 10x results. And if you put those things in place in the correct manner, then it becomes easier than if you try and double the amount of effort that you put in, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. First comes in the power of leverage. So this quote, I've talked a lot about Tony Robbins kind of giving this quote. He actually borrowed it from Peter Drucker, and he's modified it a little bit. But people often overestimate what they can accomplish in the short term, but they greatly underestimate what they could accomplish in 5 years. Tony Robbins says 1 to 2 years. The point of all of that is we look at it and we try to make it as short as possible when we're not looking big picture. Next, when we start talking about leverage, is we get so obsessed with the big picture, they don't pay attention to the tiny daily actions. So this goes to that macro and micro. So I'm blending all of these things, guys, and hopefully you're picking all that up. So you've got to pay attention to big picture. This is macro patience and micro speed, the micro actions, the daily tasks that will get you where you need to go. Now, the daily tasks add up and it creates step by step, right? There's things that have to happen. Now, even if we're going to 10x our results, and I'm going to talk about how we do that with the power of leverage, even if we're going to do that, there's still action that needs to be taken on our part. And there's 4 kinds of action. Grant Cardone talks about 4 main kinds of action that you can take. So the top 2, no action and reverse action. No action is obvious. I just don't do anything. Reverse action is where I set a goal and then I almost backpedal and I make up excuses, right? I do everything I can to not go after it because all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed and it's too much. Average action is what most of us do. We got 40, 50 people on this call. Average means 25 to 30 of them are going to be average. You guys decide. Now, obviously, you guys here are already acting above and beyond what other people that aren't showing up are doing. Now, hopefully they're watching on the replay, but we have average, right? This is why I hate that question when people say, well, what's the average? The average is average. Average is average. Average is what got you to this point in life. Quit looking for average. I want massive action. Now, massive action takes more time, takes more effort, causes more problems, but they're better problems and they're different problems. I love the fact that I have to pay taxes every year instead of getting a tax refund. I love that last year here in the US when they were giving out the stimulus to say, hey, everybody that's earning under X amount is going to get this, and I didn't qualify. I didn't mind that, right? I love that I have to have calls with people that are managing the teams that I have working on my content because I don't have to do the content. It's different problems, but it's massive action. It's stuff that I wouldn't be able to do on my own, and I'm not able to do it on my own because I'm starting to use the power of leverage. Archimedes, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. Guys, utilizing Blake's funnel and the system, and these products are already done, utilizing things like social media is leverage in a big way. There's nowhere else on the planet you'd be able to go and get 100,000 people in a room or in a stadium that are exactly the type of client that you want and hold up a billboard and say, this is what I want to be able to offer you. And they're all interested. And yet you can do that with advertising that's running 24 hours a day. It's not something where you've got to work longer to get in front of 100,000 people versus 10,000. You just increase your ads, right? I'm leveraging. So let's start to look at it. The 10X mindset, things that you need. If you're going to 10X your results, instead of trying to double them, it's not just working harder. Yes, massive action is needed, but it's a different kind of action that involves, yes, working smarter, not harder. Thinking, innovation, which means ideas that you haven't previously had. And if you can't come up with them, then you look elsewhere for them. These calls, books, trainings, everywhere else. It's understanding those things and learning those principles so that you can make better decisions. Proper amounts of dopamine, proper amounts of sleep, better health, helps you make better decisions, sleeping better, emotional, right? Your EQ, your emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. We were talking about this last week. That helps with decision making. It helps with better communication. Higher levels of self-awareness and self-management allows me to take action more because I'm aware of what I'm doing in any given moment. So here you go, a little bit of homework. What are you guys doing right now that keeps you firmly locked into the 2x or better mindset and course of action? What are you doing right now that keeps you firmly locked into the, I'm just going to, I'll double it. I'm just going to do better. Too many of you guys, and I'll show this again in a minute. Too often we say, I just want to do better. Too often we say, I'm going to do the best that I can. I want you guys to pay attention to your words. And when you're talking about your life, you're talking about your business. Instead of just saying, I'm going to do the best I can, I'm going to find a way no matter what. This is important to me because doing the best you can is kind of it's the wolf in sheep's clothing of self-development and goals. What do I mean by that? When I say I'm going to do the best that I can, when my kid gets sick and I'm not able to work on things, if I just
doubt.
What's that?
You're leaving doubt if you put it like in the middle. You're kind of leaving
doubt, and you give yourself an excuse. I've gotten out. Right? How many times have you guys not achieved a goal and you say, you know what, I did the best that I could. I really tried. Timing wasn't quite right. Life got in the way. And I was working too much. I would have, but the holidays came along. And so, extra family was over and then they visited over the weekend. And so it just kind of threw my diet off. But, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing what I can. There are different ways of going about things, right? Ultimately, what doing the best that I can does is it removes the responsibility from us. Well, I tried. It is a tricky one, Trita. It absolutely is. Because we can get into semantics. We can talk about NLP. We can talk about all of these different things. But ultimately, the power to succeed is within your grasp. All of you. Right? And I'd much rather, I had this conversation with someone the other day and they said it, but I'd much rather shoot for the stars and land on the moon than say, well, I just want to get off the ground and get things going. And then I stumble and fall on my face. Right? So I'm not saying, you've got to set a goal to become Jeff Bezos and then, not hit that. Like, okay, like let's be real with everybody. And I know some of you guys are going to push and say, blah, blah, well, there's this and there's that. And we can come up with excuses all day. But ultimately, there's very few of you on here because we're all human. We're all normal. There's very few of us that could say every single moment, all of the time, I've lived up to my potential. If you can say heartfelt, truthfully, with full integrity, you have always lived up to your potential, then I apologize. This isn't directed to you. If there are those moments where you can say, you know what? Yeah, I know I'm capable of more. Then let's do it. Now, how long does it take to get there? That's a different conversation. But recognizing that the potential is within you is key to that development. So, your homework, ladies and gentlemen, what are you doing right now that's keeping you locked into that, I'm just going to get better? What things are you saying? What actions are you taking? What thoughts are you having? Next, what can you change so that your time, talents, and efforts are geared towards that 10x? Here's a couple of ideas with leverage. Some may apply directly here. Some may apply in other ways. I know some of you guys are doing this to help other businesses. Some are looking at this to help with investing in stocks or real estate or launching a charity or doing other things, or you're looking to add this into an existing business. That's fine. Pick the points of leverage that will work. One is other people's money. business credit, business loans, stocks, real estate lending, all of these things, right? Like, why not? If someone's going to allow me to build a business based on that, then that's great. We're not talking about business credit to go buy a Louis Vuitton. We're talking about credit to leverage to get things going, right? Many people don't have any problem using other people's money to get a car. Why would I not use it to build my business? Next is other people's time. So we have the accelerator program. We have employees, virtual assistants, virtual agents, outsourcing, contractors. A lot of you guys are the source of other people's time for other business owners, right? Don't be reluctant to use other people, especially if you've lived the last however many years of your life as leverage for someone else. Okay, other people's work. So like what you have with Blake's partner program, right? He's done that work. Joint ventures, partners, talking to their list, getting in their groups, getting in front of their people. That's one way to do that. We have other people's experiences, mentors, coaches, books, blogs, podcasts, all of that. Growth, where you wouldn't necessarily find it on your own. Other people's ideas. Don't limit yourself to simply the ideas that got you here. Look at others. Scalable production, distribution. Now, Amazon, Costco, Walmart were the examples that were there. If you've got, some of you guys I know have physical products that you're using this with as well. But then the next step would be Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these different things, right? Scalable customer base. Like how do I reach them? What kind of presentation? It could be, there's all sorts of different points of leverage, guys. The point is, when you start looking towards that 10X and you believe ultimately, hey, I'm going to go after that. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. I'm going to stop with the excuses. I'm going to put the responsibility on my shoulders to live up to my potential, because success is something that if I'm not doing everything that I can to be successful, then ultimately it's unethical and immoral, not just to myself, but to my family, to those that would benefit if I were to do everything I could. And if you believe in a higher power and that higher power imbued you with a sense of purpose and destiny and capability and talents and potential, if you don't live up to that, ultimately it's on your shoulders. If you don't, and you just believe in the universe as is, then you are the one responsible. So be truthful to yourself. One of the things I love about this, guys, is that all of us are capable of amazing things. You are. And I know some of you are on the call right now and there's the excuses rolling in your head. You're going, but Andrew, you just don't understand my situation. When are you going to stop feeding yourself the bullshit and overcome it and just get stuff done? Just get at it and accomplish it. You're going to see over the course of the next year and 2 years and 5 years, people come through this call and you'll start to see them marketing online. You're going to start to see them with their own little empire. And some of you are sitting here and in 2 years and 5 years, you're going to go, man, it's just, problem with the system. Timing wasn't right. This, that, the other. Meanwhile, others are going to go out and make it happen. Question is, which side of that are you going to be on? Make the decision and live up to it every day. Because the world's going to keep burning. You're going to be responsible for rising from the ashes and flying like the phoenixes that you are. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you adieu. That is it for today. Micheline, get with your accountability rep, or I can send out the